Hi everyone, welcome back to the Navigant Credit Union Broadcast Center. I'm GoLocal News editor Kate Nagel. Thanks for joining us for the 4 o'clock News and Politics show. We started off with some national politics with Jennifer Lawless at UVA. Got to local literature with Stephen R. Porter. The Rhode Island Author Expo is this Saturday. Tacking back to both local and national news, we have Jared Moffat, who had previously headed up the Rhode Island marijuana policy projects efforts here in the States, but he is now currently abroad. Jared, thank you for joining us.
Happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Well, you know, we like to say that sometimes folks have that 10,000 foot view that they can really see things from a global perspective. You certainly can. You've taken yourself out of the States for the moment, but you're still very much immersed in the efforts for legalization, both in Rhode Island and around the country.
Yeah, that's right. I played a big role in the Michigan legalization campaign and also the Utah Medical Marijuana Initiative. So I'm still working for the Marijuana Policy Project, and we're really eager to begin the 2019 session in Rhode Island.
So let's talk a little bit about Rhode Island. And of course, we have to go just north of the border to talk about what we've seen so far in Massachusetts. As elected officials here like to say, and as they've liked to say for a number of years, let's wait and see what happens in other states around the country. What's the Massachusetts experience been to date? Apart from, I've seen some reports of a lot of traffic for folks who are trying to turn out to purchase legalized marijuana.
Yeah, I've heard those reports too. I think it speaks to the eagerness that people have to go into a regulated market. And you know, at this point with Michigan, with the successful passage of the legalization law in Michigan, now it's 10 states that have legalized marijuana for adult use. And so, you know, I think there have been plenty of reports that have come out showing what's happened in Colorado and Washington and other states as well. And I think that at this point, of course, there are folks that still disagree with legalization, and we can debate a lot of different aspects of it. But I think everyone is able to make an informed decision at this point about whether or not you know, they agree with it. So I think that's going to be our one of our big arguments in the Rhode Island legislative session is we've waited and seen long enough, and there's really no excuse to delay a vote. You know, again, if people disagree with it, they can vote against it, but there is a reason to have a vote on this issue. We've never gotten a vote in Rhode Island, so I'm very hopeful about this year.
And let's talk about the political landscape with the results of the election here past November. Of course, Governor Gina Raimondo, who says she's open to it, but of course we've seen much more reticence in the House of Representatives from the Speaker. How can 2019 be different than previous efforts when we're looking at the same players? A lot of the same players at the leadership level, but not necessarily the rank and file.
Right. Well, I think that even with the Speaker, and then we can't forget the Senate President, who has, publicly supported legalization before, and the governor has said that she's open to it. I think that look around not only at Massachusetts, the governor who supports legalization, the Democrats in the legislature are putting marijuana legalization as one of their top 5 agenda items. You've got New Jersey moving forward. Just yesterday, they passed in both committees in the Senate and the House. They passed a legalization bill. The New York Department of Health has come out and endorsed legalization. So I think when you look around all of New England and the Northeast in general, what we're seeing is as states are moving past us very quickly. And so I think there's a very pragmatic argument to this, not just the economics of it. We've talked a lot about that in the past, but also just the fact that Rhode Islanders can now cross the border into Massachusetts, buy marijuana legally, and presumably a lot of them will bring it back. And so, all we're doing right now by not acting is preventing the state from establishing regulations for public health and safety, from collecting revenue to fund police officer enforcement of driving, to do public education campaigns, research, that type of thing. So again, even if you're not a big fan of legalization, I think the pragmatic sort of way to look at it is, look, this is the reality that's cropping up all around us. And we're just not prepared. So I think that's one of our big arguments, and I'm hopeful that that pragmatic sort of perspective will leadership.
So how soon, Jared, do you expect in the 2019 General Assembly session? They do literally come back on the 1st to get sworn in. Do you expect to have that official sort of campaign kickoff here in Rhode Island? Obviously we'll see the governor's budget proposal and there'll be a number of items to address early on in the session, but I'm assuming you're looking to tackle it head on right away.
Yeah, I mean, right now we are sort of assessing what our capacity is and what type of resources we have for a campaign, and so that's where we are right now. What I'd like to see is all cylinders on full blast and going as hard as we can in Rhode Island. So I would say that definitely, towards the end of December and beginning of January, we're definitely going to start to be more visible, and we're already sort of, reaching out to legislators and starting to draft the legislation. So, yeah, we definitely want to hit the ground running. I don't think there's going to be a bill probably until early February because we need some time to work on that. But yeah, we want to make a big campaign and hopefully get a lot of attention on the issue.
And when you talk about proposing the legislation, obviously you've put forth bills before. Any substantive changes? I mean, the talk again is always wait and see. Let's learn from what the other states have done. Anything big or major that needs to be tweaked from what you've done in years past?
Well, I think that, as time's gone on, we have seen what's worked really well in other states and some things that haven't. I would say that there's not going to be a lot of really significant changes, but one thing that we're definitely want to be sensitive to is, making sure that legislation in Rhode Island doesn't significantly conflict with what's going on in Massachusetts, for example, on like tax rates, things like that. You don't want to create this really, because then folks will probably still cross the border. So there's a lot of minor sort of issues like that. I think the issue of like local control in cities and towns, and that's something that might be a little bit. But overall, I think the basic structure, they regulate marijuana like alcohol because that's something that people can understand. We want to have licensing, we want to have taxes. So the basic idea is going to be the same.
Well, Jared Moffat, again, from outside the United States, we appreciate your taking the time to, again, give us a little update as to what you've been up to, the states where you've had success working with the Marijuana Policy Project, and what we can potentially expect here in Rhode Island in 2019, especially as we're keeping an eye up in Massachusetts, having just gone full scale up there. So we appreciate your time. We look forward to seeing you when you're back here in Rhode Island and wish you all the best in the meantime.
All right. Thanks a lot, Kate.
Okay. Thanks, Jared. Jared Moffat with the Marijuana Policy Project, appreciate, is taking the time to Skype in today here in the Navigant Credit Union Broadcast Center. We'll be back tomorrow at 3 o'clock with Laura Afonso and all things food and drink, and I'll be back here at 4. In the meantime, check in with GoLocalProv.com and find us on Facebook. We look forward to seeing you tomorrow here in the Navigant Credit Union